This was my second background piece. Having just went overtime on the last attack, I was determined to stay within the 4-hour time limit, so I told myself I would keep things as loose as possible. Looking at Kazim's profile, I saw his character, Kazim. Seeing the connections to Portal on his character sheet, I remember how striking the environments were, especially in the second game when things were falling apart. So I collected a bunch of Portal screenshots and concept art as reference. Just so that the character wouldn't be alone, I also decided to include his little traffic cone creatures. The thing about the environments in Portal is that they can get really detailed. I did not have the time or energy to figure out how to draw that myself. Rather than replicate the things I saw, I tried to communicate the general feeling I got when looking at them, which was of a liminal space that's breaking down. I started off with an isometric corner, just 2 walls and a floor, and started taking chunks out of it. Then I started placing a bunch of random slabs, room pieces, to fill out the empty space. To keep things from being too simple, I also decided to include a bunch of stairs. It didn't matter so much to me that the perspective and geometry was super messed up, partially because it lends itself to the feeling I was going for with this piece, but also because I wanted to save time. Once I had the general layout of the space, I added in the characters and got to coloring. I really wanted to make an effort with the coloring since I wasn't totally satisfied with the way I handled things in my last background piece. I decided to make use of the technique that I had learned while working on my Revenge for Andromeda, but I unexpectedly ended up hitting a roadblock. I had no idea how the shadow would look in the central area. For some reason, I just couldn't wrap my head around how the left wall's shadow would fall on the other surfaces. It would have been really nice if I knew Blender, so I could make a 3D mock-up of the space and use that as a lighting reference, but I didn't have the time to learn a new program just for this attack. So naturally, I made a mock-up in real life and took a picture in the bathroom with the lights off using a flashlight to recreate my light source. Anyway, from then on, the lighting went really smoothly. I made the background a dark void, like space, which decided that the elements that were further back would be darker. For the foreground element, you can only go so bright before getting too close to white, but I needed to find a way to push things further to distinguish it from the midground. I ended up putting a soft blur on the edges facing the light source, the way really bright light sometimes diffuses in the air, even though they're in space and there's no air particles to cause that lighting effect. Cheating physics to make things look good is all par for the course with art. Anyway, I messed around a lot with filters like curves and color balance, frequently checking the values in black and white. I also did a few touch-ups and added a bit of texture, as well as colored all the line art more vibrantly so it would stand out against the dark background. Even though the background is really simple, especially compared to the reference images I had pulled up, I'm still really proud of the results. I feel like I really got to redeem myself with the colors, and now have a better idea of how to tackle drawings with backgrounds overall.